Welcome to Food Module 2, technically Module 4, Adequate Nutrition, Part 1, Macronutrients. What are macronutrients? These are the nutrients in your body that you need large amounts of that have been commonly broken down into protein, carbs, and fats. And we will kind of throw an extra one in there, water as well. Okay, so let's start with protein. Protein is 4 calories per gram. This is something good to know because on nutrition labels, sometimes they're off. Sometimes a label will have the same amount of protein, same amount of carbs and fats. One of them will say 90 calories, one will say 80. And now you can know why they're allowed to be off by a certain percentage. I don't know what it is. It's different in every country. But they're allowed to be off by a certain percentage. So if you know these things, then you can kind of calculate it yourself on labels, and you can not be fooled when you go to log it. So protein, 4 grams, 4 calories per gram. Same with carbs, 4 calories per gram. Fat, 9 calories per gram. Recommendations for protein is 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Jeff Nippard actually had a really good way of doing this. He said 1 gram per pound, 1 gram per centimeter of height. So it takes a bit of math, but it's a little bit better than per pound of body weight because depending on what your body fat percentage looks like, if you're a super overweight individual, you may be eating way more protein than what you need. And when you are overweight by quite a bit, depending on your body mass index and your body fat percentage, if you are obese, you actually require less protein than someone who's on the leaner side of things. So the kind of height in centimeters is a great recommendation by Jeff Nippard. What are the functions of protein? Growth, repair, and enzymes. It's the building blocks of a lot of things in your body. Sources. There are tons of sources. This is just a small list. Meat, poultry, fish, eggs, dairy, beans, lentils, tofu, quinoa, nuts, seeds. Just something to note is that the protein in vegan and vegetarian sources is not as bioavailable, and they often come attached to carbs and fats more so than lean meats on the animal side of things. So if you're a vegetarian, a vegan, I highly recommend protein powders, vegan protein powders, vegetarian protein powders. That gives you basically the same bioavailability as stuff like whey, chicken, stuff like that. So if you're a vegetarian or vegan, I highly recommend supplementing with a protein powder. Another function, immune support, nutrient transport, and another recommendation is to distribute these throughout the day if possible. Yes, you could eat it all in one meal. We'll talk about why, in a bit of a later section in food, why that's not the best strategy. There are a lot of people who do really well on one meal a day. It's not super optimal. I don't think it builds very healthy relationship patterns with food. But if you do really well with one meal a day or something like that, or intermittent fasting, then you totally can do this. But the general recommendation is let's spread that protein in our meals throughout the day. Moving on to the next one, carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram. As we talked about, recommendations officially say 40 to 60% of your calories, but it's actually not necessary. This is the one macronutrient that isn't absolutely necessary by the body. However, as it says in functions, it is your body's preferred energy source. I have done low carb. If you're not super careful with optimizing all the other brain supporting things, you get really bad brain fog, have a really hard time in the gym, because it's also your brain's preferred energy source as well as carbohydrates. Other recommendations, 10 to 12 grams of fiber per about 1,000 calories. So if you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, at least 20 grams of fiber just to keep things moving, good gut microbiome, all that kind of stuff. And then prioritize complex and reduce simple carbs. We don't want to be just skyrocketing our blood sugar all the time. That could lead to not so great things. Functions, it's our body's preferred source of energy. It's muscle function and sparing. It's awesome for the gym. You can feel like a Superman in the gym if you haven't had carbs for a few days. Fiber supports digestion and gut health. And then some good sources for carbohydrates: fruits and veggies, lots of fiber in those. Pasta, rice, bread, potatoes, grains, legumes, dairy. This isn't by any means an exhaustive list. And Chronometer will give you lots of suggestions as well. Going deeper into fiber. So fiber is a little different. It's a type of carb, but there are soluble and insoluble types of fiber. Soluble fiber literally just means that it can dissolve in water. These types of fiber feed gut bacteria. They lower cholesterol, slow carb absorption, really good for your gut microbiome. A lot of sources are different fruits, veggies, grains, legumes, seeds. Same with the insoluble fiber, but it won't be the same foods that they come in. And this is just on average the calories per gram. And then insoluble means your body just can't digest this. It can't absorb in water. And what these do, it adds bulk to stool and just promotes regular bowel movements. Moving on to one that I should mention, alcohol, 7 grams, 7 calories per gram. The way that alcohol works in the system is that your body actually stops metabolizing carbs and fat as energy, and it wants to get rid of alcohol as fast as possible. So it kind of stops those other things, burns through the alcohol. So if you have a night where you're just drinking tons of beer, your body's going to be halting fat loss, halting things like muscle repair. So that's why alcohol isn't the greatest thing to have when you're just really trying to be dialed in. To be honest, it's not the best thing to have. It's okay to have once in a while. It's not gonna kill you. But be cautious. Use it in moderation. A drink here and there is not bad, but having like 3 or 4 drinks can seriously impede recovery. It can impede fat loss and kind of just take away from your overall goals and set progress back a bit. It also impedes sleep. So on multiple levels, it impedes recovery. So yeah, use it cautiously, use it in moderation. Hey, if you're at a wedding and stuff, enjoy. Let's just not make this a daily and even weekly habit of consuming more than 2 drinks on the weekend. It's just probably not the best for your goals. Moving on to fats, 9 calories per gram. So this is why we got to be kind of careful when we're tracking these things. It can add up very quickly. Recommendations are 20 to 30% of daily calories. However, everyone's very unique. But this is one that we should kind of play around with and figure out, because it is very important for hormone production, nutrient absorption. And if you go really low fat for a while, you can start to see some really weird effects, like temporary hair loss, eyesight, stuff like that. And then we'll talk about this a little bit later. There's some new data to show that maximizing your omega-3s seems to be the most important part of those fats. So some sources for just overall fat: meat, fish, eggs, dairy, avocados, nuts, olives, seed oils. By no means is that an exhaustive list. There are quite a few more. Recommendations for omega-3s: between 250 and 500 milligrams of EPA and DHA of omega-3s. There's another one, I think it's called, I'm gonna butcher this. I'll put it here. I think it's LHL or AHA or something like that. It's one found in like flax seeds and stuff like that. It doesn't actually convert too well, so I don't recommend getting your omega-3s through things like walnuts and flax seeds. It just doesn't convert very well. You'd have to eat a lot more of these. It's better to get through omega-3 supplementation or through things like fatty fish. And then just an overall kind of recommendation, although again, this is a little bit debated in the research: try and limit your saturated and especially trans fats. So stuff like Twinkies, even though there's a very famous study of someone doing the Twinkie diet where he eats just processed foods and loses weight and has better blood health markers, the general consensus is stick to more unsaturated fat sources, which are usually the vegetarian sources. However, there's tons of people who do really well on meat diets. So again, do your own research on those. However, we're going to talk a bit more about omega-3s because they support brain function, huge immune support. I myself have done a very low fat diet for the last bit. Again, I got lots of hair. My eyesight's great. I've maximized all my other nutrients, but I've really, really focused on making sure I have my omega-3s high, and my brain function has been way better than in the past. And I think it is primarily due to these omega-3s. Water. So this is a very important one because there has been a lot of misconceptions about water. That's why I'm putting this as misconceptions. I could have done a sources section actually now that I think about it, because the recommendations are 3 to 4 total fluids per day. Again, ask ChatGPT because you guys are probably very, very well versed in the misconceptions about water. Ask ChatGPT, 3 to 4 total fluids per day. Yes, food and coffee sources count. Things like water within your meats, water within your fruits and veggies, water within your coffee. Yes, those all count. And guess what? Your body has a great way of letting you know when you need water. It's called thirst. So pay attention to thirst, and you obviously will require more when you're doing heavy activity because you are losing that water as well. What does water do? Provides cell environment, like literally water within the cell. Nutrient transport, thermal regulation, making sure you don't overheat. Promotes digestion, waste removal, bowel movements, supports your metabolism. Water is amazing. Make sure you get enough of it, but you want to stay hydrated. If you have too much water, you can actually dehydrate yourself. We'll talk about this a bit in the micronutrients section and electrolytes, but we'll go through some misconceptions here. The more water is better. Clear urine is best. This is a misconception. The more water you drink, you're going to dilute those electrolytes that actually hold water within your body, causing you to dump water. This is actually why a lot of bodybuilders and stuff can sometimes have really weird heart issues or dehydration because they're manipulating these systems of the body. The more water is not better. Drink as you're thirsty. A little bit of yellow in your urine is completely normal and fine, and you could be very well hydrated. Drink as you're thirsty. If you're thirsty, you're dehydrated. That is another myth and misconception. Your body is very good at letting you know when you need water. Just pay attention to that signal. And again, coffee and tea dehydrate you. Yes, caffeine can be a diuretic, but unless you're consuming purely shots of espresso, you will be okay. You can consume your coffee. Again, just don't consume only coffee. Like we said in the first module, you're going to cut that off about 8 hours before bed anyways. Drink other fluids throughout the day. I actually don't drink a ton of just water. You could drink diet sodas, you could drink flavored drinks, but yeah, and then the other misconception of 8 glasses a day. Again, they're probably trying to get to the 3 to 4 total fluids per day, but you don't need 8 glasses of just pure water a day. Your body's very good at turning fluids into usable water within your system. All right, which concludes Module 4. And we will now go into micronutrients. This is a good transition because we're going to talk about some of these minerals that require us to be hydrated in the electrolyte section of nutrition and micronutrients. So we'll see you in Module 5.